Beloved, God didn't require that you never make a mistake in order for him to have a plan for your life. God was aware of every mistake you would make. You'll betray me 3 times before the rooster crows tonight, Jesus warned Peter, remember? He was well aware that Peter would be absent when he most needed him. No action you've taken has surprised God. The good news is that God has prepared mercy for every error. Where sin abounds, grace does much more abound, says Romans 5. In other words, any error will never be greater than God's mercy. I've done a lot of things wrong, you might say. I turned away from God and began to follow the wrong crowd. In a relationship, I was unfaithful. In a few business transactions, I wasn't truthful. I completely blew it. Allow me to bring to you God's greater measure of kindness. It surpasses all shortcomings, flaws, and errors. The Bible declares that God never disqualifies us from fulfilling his purpose in our lives. God would never have allowed it if that error or that shortcoming was going to prevent you from achieving your goals. God knows what he's doing, even though it may have taken you in a different direction than you anticipated. He still has the ability to deliver you to your destination. According to Psalm 37, the Lord orders the steps of a virtuous man. Though he falls, he will not be destroyed because the Lord maintains him with his hand. Beloved, even while God is guiding us, there will still be occasions when we stumble, don't perform properly, snap at someone, or make a bad decision. God assures us that failure will not be the end and that it is not the end. There is still hope after addiction. Why is the divorce not the end? You are in the palm of God's hand right now. He won't let you leave without him. The idea is to get up quickly if you fall. Avoid wallowing in your guilt. Don't live your life believing that you must make amends to God for your errors because you feel bad on the inside. Know that 2,000 years ago, the payment was made in full on the cross. Recognize and accept God's mercy. Start holding on to the hope that he would treat you well once more. In 2 Chronicles 33, Manasseh the king is mentioned. He was Israel's most perverse monarch in history. The pagan temples that his father Hezekiah had destroyed were rebuilt by him. David said that only Jehovah would be worshipped in the temple that Solomon constructed, but he produced sculptures of the god Baal, erected them, and everyone bowed and worshiped them. He engaged in all kinds of evil for 55 years. The city was taken over by the Syrian army one day, and King Manasseh was captured. He appeared to be receiving what he got and was on his way to Babylon, the most powerful empire of the time. What did he do after 55 years of disobeying God and doing wrong? He cried out in humility to the Lord his God, the God of his ancestors. In the midst of his tremendous suffering, according to verse 12, God didn't say, "Manasseh, you fair weather friend, you don't even acknowledge me for 55 years and now you want my help. You have been the most evil monarch. The Guinness Book of World Records lists you." No, God wouldn't do that. Rather, God heard him when he prayed and was moved by his desire. It continues by describing how God saved him from the Babylonians and how, as a changed man, he went back to rule his people in his native region. He solely worshiped God after that. That is our God's mercy. We believe God won't assist me since I haven't lived the correct kind of life. I have an addiction. I ruined a connection. I didn't properly parent my kids. You're not worse than Manasseh, not at all. The Bible doesn't name you as the most wicked person. Beloved, why don't you say it out loud? God, I screwed up everything. I didn't accomplish everything perfectly, but God, I know that where sin is abundant, grace is even more abundant. I am aware of your abundant mercy. I'm praying to God for assistance. God is not going to ever assist me or pay attention to me. He paid Manasseh attention. After 55 years of doing nothing but wrong, he had the audacity to beg. God changed it and rescued him from the mess he created. Beloved, have you ever prayed to God to help you overcome a challenge you created for yourself? Do you have the courage to ask God to bless you despite your transgressions and to be kind to you despite your shortcomings? The enemy works overtime as you begin to shed your shame and condemnation. He is known as the accuser. He'll bring up all your flaws and errors. He wants you to carry around a sense of unworthiness, a heavy burden of shame, and thoughts of how worthless you are. Samson's life had been planned out before. He developed this magical strength as he grew older. These thousands of Philistines had at one point surrounded him. The only thing he possessed was a donkey's jawbone. He had neither armor nor weapons. He grabbed it and overcame those tens of thousands of troops. Another time, when he was confined inside a city with high walls and sealed gates, it appeared as though he would be apprehended. However, in the middle of the night, he went to the city gates, these massive iron structures, and tore them out of the ground before carrying them to the top of a hill. Samson was impossible to contain, yet he started hanging around with the wrong crowd. He began making poor decisions, compromising, and acting in ways that he knew were improper. He dropped his guard and revealed the source of his power to the Philistines. He lost all of his abilities after having his hair cropped. Along with capturing him, they also gouged out both of his eyes and chained him. He eventually found himself working in a prison mill. This formerly strong guy, who had God's blessing and favor and was destined for great things, is now blind, chained, and living like an animal. The key point is that he is to blame for it. He made things worse for himself. It appeared as though God had completed working with him, but one day there was a huge party being held by the Philistines, and thousands of people had gathered in this enormous space. In an effort to display Samson as their prize, they made the decision to bring him out. People would pass by while he was on exhibit and laugh, mock, and ridicule him. Samson should feel guilty, defeated, and contemplative. You'd say, "Hey, I'm receiving what I'm due. I made a lot of poor decisions." Samson was aware of this idea, nevertheless. He muttered, "Sovereign God, please strengthen me once more," while they made fun of him. Imagine the courage and nerve that required. Despite all of his faults, he still had the hubris to think that God would hear him and would grant him the same strength, favor, and blessing that he had before those mistakes. God might have remarked, "Samson, the opportunity was yours. You continually made mistakes. No, when you boldly approach the throne and beg for God's mercy as well as blessings in spite of your transgressions, assistance in cleaning up a mess you created, and favor even though you don't deserve it, God doesn't respond by saying, 'Oh well, I won't do it. I'm not going to.'" The Bible claims that Samson experienced a second occurrence of extraordinary power. He asked a small boy to put his hands on the columns that he was shackled to, as those folks laughed at him. It just so happened that the structure was supported by these two substantial pillars. One more time, he experienced that extraordinary strength rushing through him. When he pushed the columns, the structure fell. In comparison to his entire life, he vanquished more foes in his final moments. What would have happened if he hadn't had the guts to pray, "God, strengthen me once more"? Perhaps you have erred. You may declare, like Samson, that you are not where you want to be in life, that you might be the reason why a disaster happened. You lack discipline, hung out with the wrong crowd, and engaged in behavior that you knew was improper. I have a question for you. Will you have the courage to shrug off your guilt and the accusing voices and implore God to bless you, restore you, show you favor, and deliver you one more time? The beauty of our God is that He will do it again if you have the audacity to ask. He will strengthen you again, make you whole, clean, beautiful, and make you a new person. Finally, my beloved, you have nothing to fear from God, even if you have been carrying a tremendous burden of guilt, judgment, and the belief that God would never treat you kindly. Know that God loves you so dearly. Have you ever questioned or said, God, I haven't done this well. I've messed up, but God, I beg you to still bless me in spite of my errors. God, I'm pleading with you once more to give me strength. For Jacob, God made a way. He carried it out for Manasseh, Samson, and Jonah. He will handle it for you. He is an additional God. He's going to bless you once again. He's going to restore you once more. The good news is that He will always have enough one more times. Now let go of your guilt and approach the throne with confidence. You won't be let down if you follow through on this. I firmly believe and announce that God will redeem you, bless you, deliver you, and still allow you to carry out the best course He has for your life. Thank you for staying till the end. Like this video, comment and share to your family and friends. Subscribe for more videos. God bless you.